The stars burned cold in the depths of space as Commander Aphelia's fleet died around her. She watched through the cracked viewing screen as another coalition warship exploded, its hull torn apart by the relentless Vrexian weapons. Green bioacid ate through metal like it was paper. Her insectoid hands trembled as she gripped the command console. "All ships, retreat to fallback position 7, she ordered, but her voice cracked. There was no fallback position anymore. The Vrexians had destroyed everything. 3 years. That was how long this war had lasted. 3 years of watching her people die. 3 years of losing ground to an enemy that seemed endless. The Vrexian collective swept through the galaxy like a plague, consuming everything in their path. Their ships were alive, grown from terrible biotechnology that turned matter into weapons. The Coalition had tried everything. Energy shields, quantum missiles, genetic plagues. Nothing worked. Aphelia's second officer collapsed at his station, bleeding from wounds that would not heal. The Vrexian bioweapons corrupted flesh faster than their doctors could treat it. She had lost half her crew in the last battle alone. Her homeworld was next. Chiton Prime, where billions of her people lived, would fall within days. "Commander, communications are failing," her officer said weakly. "The Vrexians are jamming everything." Aphelia looked at the tactical display. Red markers surrounded her position. Hundreds of enemy ships, thousands. The Coalition fleet numbered less than 50 vessels now. They had started with thousands. How had they fallen so far? How had the mighty Coalition, representing 40 different species across 100 star systems, been brought to the edge of extinction? She made a decision. A desperate, foolish decision. Aphelia opened the emergency broadcast channel, the one reserved for absolute catastrophe. She sent the signal on all frequencies in all languages to every corner of known space, even to the primitive worlds that had not yet joined the Coalition. "This is Commander Aphelia of the Galactic Coalition Defense Force," she said, and her voice carried the weight of defeat. "We are losing the war. The Vrexian collective has broken our lines. They are coming for the core worlds. If anyone can hear this message, if anyone has the strength to help us, please. We are dying out here." The transmission ended. Aphelia knew it was pointless. Who would answer? The Coalition represented the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy. If they could not stop the Vrexians, who could? Thousands of light years away on a blue planet circling a yellow star, someone was listening. Captain Deho stood on the observation deck of the orbital station called Sejong's Pride. Earth hung below him, peaceful and beautiful. He had been reviewing supply reports when the emergency signal came through. At first, he thought it was a drill. The Terran Defense Force ran many drills. Earth had only joined the galactic community 5 years ago, and they were still learning how things worked out here among the stars. But this was not a drill. The signal was real. Someone was calling for help. Deho was not a tall man, but he carried himself like someone who had seen combat. His dark eyes studied the translated message on his datapad. The words chilled him. A galactic war. An enemy that could not be stopped. Billions of lives at risk. "Sir, Admiral Jiwan is requesting your immediate presence in the command center," his assistant said. Deho moved quickly through the station's corridors. Other officers were rushing to their posts. Everyone had heard the message. Earth's government was already in emergency session, debating what to do. Some politicians wanted to stay out of it. Why risk human lives for aliens they barely knew? Others argued that if the Vrexians won, Earth would be next. Admiral Jiwan was waiting in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Aphelia sector. The Admiral was older with gray in her hair, but her eyes were sharp and calculating. She had served in Earth's naval forces before humanity had even discovered faster-than-light travel. "Captain Deho," she said without preamble, "how fast can you get the Indomitable ready for combat?" Deho felt his heart race. The Indomitable was humanity's most advanced warship, built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology. It was experimental, untested in real combat. Most of the Coalition species considered human technology crude and primitive. Humanity used kinetic weapons, chemical rockets, and nuclear fission, when other species had moved on to exotic energy systems centuries ago. 24 hours, Admiral, Deho said. "But the politicians have not authorized—" "The politicians are afraid," Jiwan interrupted. "They think if we stay quiet, the Vrexians will not notice us. They are wrong. I am authorizing the deployment under emergency defense protocol. If the Coalition falls, we are next. Better to fight now while we still have allies." Deho nodded slowly. What are my orders? Take the Indomitable to the Aphelia sector. Find Commander Aphelia's fleet. Help them survive. Show the galaxy what humans can do. Ji-Won's expression hardened. And Deho? Do not lose my ship. Yes, Admiral. Within hours, the Indomitable was preparing for departure. The crew assembled quickly, moving through pre-flight checks with practiced efficiency. Lieutenant Mirai took her position at the tactical station. She was young but brilliant, with a mind that saw patterns others missed. Sergeant Taman loaded the weapon systems, checking every missile and railgun personally. Chief Engineer Hiron worked in the engine room, coaxing maximum power from the experimental reactor. They were all volunteers. Every single crew member had chosen to go, knowing they might not come back. That was the human way, Deho thought. When someone called for help, you answered. The Indomitable detached from Sejong's pride and turned toward deep space. The ship was not elegant like Coalition vessels. It was blocky and functional, covered in armor plating and studded with weapon ports. It looked like exactly what it was, a warship built for combat. All stations report ready, Mirai said from her console. Engineering reports FTL drive is charged and stable. Hiron's voice came through the intercom. Deho settled into the captain's chair and looked at the view screen. The stars waited. Somewhere out there, people were dying. Somewhere out there, Commander Aphelia's fleet was making its last stand. Helmsman, plot a course for the Aphelia sector, Deho ordered. Maximum speed. The Indomitable's engines flared bright and the ship leaped forward into faster-than-light travel. Behind them, Earth disappeared. Ahead of them, a war waited. None of them knew if they would make a difference. None of them knew if one human warship could change the course of a galactic conflict, but they were going to try. Because that was what humans did. When someone said they were losing, when someone cried out in desperation, humans did not calculate the odds. They did not debate politics or worry about the risks. They sent their warship. The Indomitable dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Aphelia sector, and immediately every alarm on the bridge started screaming. Captain Deho's eyes snapped to the tactical display, and what he saw made his blood run cold. Contact! Multiple hostile vessels bearing 327 Mark 15. Mirai called out from her station. Her fingers flew across the controls, trying to count the enemy ships. Sir, I am reading at least 30 Vrexian vessels. They are surrounding a coalition carrier. On the main view screen, the scene was chaos. A massive ship, easily 3 times the size of the Indomitable, hung dead in space. Its hull was scorched and torn, leaking atmosphere and debris. Around it circled alien vessels that looked nothing like human ships. The Vrexian craft were organic, their hulls rippling like living skin. Green light pulsed through veins visible beneath their surfaces. They looked like deep-sea creatures, all tentacles and jagged edges. That must be Commander Aphelia's ship, Deho said quietly. Mirai, are they still alive? Detecting life signs, but they are faint. The carrier is badly damaged. It cannot fight back. Mirai paused, reading her sensors. Sir, the Vrexians are charging weapons. They are preparing to finish them off. Deho felt the weight of the moment settle on his shoulders. He had come here to help, but one ship against 30? The odds were terrible. Every logical part of his mind told him to retreat, to call for reinforcements, to wait for a better opportunity. But that carrier would be destroyed in minutes. Those people would die. What is the status of our weapons? He asked. All systems ready, Captain. Taman's voice came through the intercom from the weapons bay. The sergeant sounded eager, almost excited. Railguns loaded, missile tubes hot, plasma lances charging. Just give me targets. They have not noticed us yet, Mirai observed. We are on the edge of their sensor range. We could open fire, Deho interrupted. The bridge crew turned to look at him. They had expected many things, but not that. Not a direct attack without warning, without trying to communicate first. Sir? Mirai asked, uncertain. We talked about this during training. Deho said, his voice hard. The Vrexians do not negotiate. They do not show mercy. They have spent 3 years killing everything in their path. We are not here to make friends with them. We are here to stop them, so we open fire. Now. Mirai swallowed and turned back to her console, locking targets. Prioritizing the ships closest to the carrier, the Indomitable's weapons came alive. Railguns accelerated metal slugs to tremendous speeds using electromagnetic force. Missiles streaked out on chemical rockets, each one tipped with a nuclear warhead. The plasma lances, humanity's most advanced weapon, fired concentrated beams of superheated matter. The Vrexians never saw it coming. Their ships were designed to fight coalition vessels, which announced their presence with energy signatures and shield emissions. The Indomitable had been running silent, its reactor output minimal. To the Vrexian sensors, it had looked like just another piece of debris. 3 enemy ships exploded simultaneously as railgun slugs punched through their organic hulls at relativistic speeds. The kinetic energy alone was enough to tear them apart. 2 more died as nuclear missiles detonated against their bodies, the primitive but devastating weapons overwhelming their bioregeneration. The plasma lances sliced through another vessel, superheating its internal fluids until it burst like an overripe fruit. 6 ships destroyed in the first 10 seconds. The Vrexian formation dissolved into chaos. They are scattering, Mirai reported, surprise in her voice. Multiple ships attempting to retreat. Others are trying to form a defensive pattern. Do not let them regroup, Deho ordered. Taman continuous fire. Target anything that moves. The Indomitable surged forward, its engines burning bright. It was not a graceful ship, but it was fast. The human warship carved through the Vrexian formation like a predator among prey. Every weapon fired constantly. Railguns hammered out rounds so fast they sounded like thunder. Missiles corkscrewed through space, tracking targets with simple but effective guidance systems. The plasma lances swept across enemy hulls, cutting and burning. The Vrexians tried to fight back. Their bioacid weapons fired streams of corrosive material designed to eat through energy shields. But the Indomitable did not use energy shields. It used thick armor plating, layered metal that could be replaced. The acid splashed against the hull, doing surface damage but nothing critical. Minor hull damage, sections 4 through 7. Chief Engineer Higher reported from the engine room. Nothing we cannot fix. Armor is holding. The Vrexians tried their sonic disruptors, weapons that vibrated at frequencies meant to shatter crystalline hulls. The Indomitable's metal construction barely noticed. They fired bioplasma, living weapons that sought out organic targets. But the ship's crew was protected behind sealed bulkheads, and the plasma could not penetrate to reach them. Everything the Vrexians used was designed to fight advanced aliens with exotic defenses. They had no answer for humanity's brutal, straightforward approach. It was like using a scalpel to fight someone with a sledgehammer. 15 hostiles destroyed, Mirai counted, her voice rising with excitement. 10 retreating. 5 attempting to form a defensive position near the carrier. Ignore the retreating ships, Deho decided. Focus on the 5 near the carrier. We need to clear them out. The Indomitable angled toward the remaining Vrexian vessels. These were larger than the others, command ships perhaps. They had formed a wall between the human warship and the crippled carrier. Green light built up along their hulls, weapons charging. They are preparing a coordinated strike, Mirai warned. All 5 targeting us. Evasive maneuvers, Deho ordered. Taman, hit them with everything. The Indomitable twisted in space, its maneuvering thrusters firing in complex patterns. The ship was not agile compared to smaller vessels, but it moved unpredictably. The Vrexian weapons fired as one, streams of bioacid converging on where the Indomitable should have been. But the human ship had already moved, and the enemy fire passed through empty space. Taman did not miss. 5 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously, 1 for each target. The Vrexians tried to shoot them down, but the missiles were too fast, too simple. No exotic technology to disrupt, no complex systems to hack. Just rocket fuel and nuclear fire. The detonations lit up space like new suns. When the light faded, all 5 command ships were gone, vaporized or torn into pieces. The remaining Vrexian vessels, the ones that had tried to retreat, accelerated away at maximum speed. Within minutes, they had disappeared into the darkness between stars. Silence fell over the Indomitable's bridge. The crew stared at their displays, barely believing what had just happened. They had been in combat for less than 5 minutes. They had faced 30 enemy warships, and they had won. Damage report, Deho said, forcing himself to stay calm and professional. Minor hull damage easily repaired, Higher reported. Some weapons need reloading, but all systems are functioning. We are combat ready. Casualty report? None, sir. Not even injuries. Deho leaned back in his chair and let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. They had done it. 1 human warship had broken a Vrexian siege and saved a coalition carrier. Sir, I am receiving a transmission from the carrier, the communications officer said. Audio only. They are asking who we are. Deho stood up and straightened his uniform. This was the moment. First contact between humanity and the Galactic Coalition, and it was happening on a battlefield. "Open channel," he ordered. "This is Captain Deho of the Terran Defense Force ship Indomitable," he said clearly. "We received your distress call, Commander Aphelia. We are here to help. We are here to even the odds." There was a long pause. Then a voice came through the speakers, weak and filled with disbelief. It was translated by the ship's computer into Korean, but Deho could hear the emotion behind it. "Terran, you are from Earth? The primitive world?" Deho smiled, though the alien could not see it. "Primitive, maybe, but we know how to fight, and we are very good at it. Do you need medical assistance?" "Yes," Aphelia's voice cracked. "Yes, please. We have wounded. We have dying. Can you help us?" "That is why we came," Deho said. "Hold on, Commander. Humanity has entered this war." On his view screen, the crippled Coalition carrier hung in space, surrounded by the debris of destroyed Vrexian ships. And approaching it, engines still glowing from combat, came the Indomitable. Blocky, ugly, covered in scorch marks and scratches, but victorious. The galaxy was about to learn something important, something the Vrexians would come to fear. When humans built a warship, they built it to win. Commander Aphelia had never seen a human before. When the shuttle brought her aboard the Indomitable, she did not know what to expect. The Coalition had sent exploration teams to Earth years ago, but few people paid attention to the reports. Earth was primitive. Its people had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. They had no quantum technology, no genetic engineering, no exotic physics. Why would anyone care about them? Now, standing in the docking bay of a human warship, Aphelia understood why everyone had been wrong. The ship was nothing like Coalition vessels. The corridors were narrow and functional, with exposed pipes and cable runs along the ceiling. Everything was metal and composite materials. No organic components, no crystal matrices, no elegant curves. It looked like something built in a factory, assembled by machines. It looked crude, but it had just destroyed 30 Vrexian warships without taking serious damage. Captain Deho met her in the docking bay. Aphelia studied the human carefully. He was bipedal, like many species, but shorter than she had expected. His skin was smooth, lacking scales or chitin. His eyes were small and dark, but they watched her with keen intelligence. He wore a simple military uniform, gray and unadorned except for rank insignia. "Commander Aphelia," Deho said, and the translation device rendered his words in Coalition standard. "Welcome aboard. I apologize for the rough accommodations. This is a warship, not a diplomatic vessel." "You saved my crew," Aphelia said, her voice still weak from injuries. "You have nothing to apologize for, Captain." Deho gestured for her to follow him. As they walked through the ship, Aphelia saw human crew members working at various stations. They all looked similar to Deho, with minor variations in size and coloring. Some were male, others female. All moved with purpose and discipline. They reached the bridge, and Aphelia saw the tactical displays showing the local space. Her carrier was stable now, its critical systems repaired by human engineering teams. The Vrexian retreat had been total. For the first time in months, her people were safe. "How did you do it?" she asked suddenly. "Your ship is smaller than most Coalition cruisers. You faced 30 Vrexian vessels. They should have overwhelmed you." Deho exchanged a glance with Lieutenant Mireille, who was monitoring the sensor stations. The young woman smiled slightly. "The Vrexians are used to fighting your way," Deho explained. "Energy shields, bioweapons, quantum jammers. They have adapted to counter everything the Coalition uses, but we do not fight that way." He pulled up a display showing the Indomitable's weapon systems. "This is a railgun. It uses electromagnetic coils to accelerate a solid metal projectile to extremely high speeds. The kinetic energy alone is enough to punch through most armor. There is no exotic technology to disrupt. It is just mass times velocity." Aphelia studied the design. It was so simple it seemed almost primitive. "But energy weapons can be more powerful, more accurate, more complex," Mireille interrupted gently. "More things that can go wrong. More systems that can be jammed or hacked. Our weapons are simple. They work in any environment, against any target. Point and shoot," Deho continued. "Our missiles use chemical rockets. Old technology by galactic standards, but they are fast, cheap to manufacture, and the nuclear warheads carry tremendous destructive power. The Vrexians tried to use bioacid against us, but we use physical armor instead of energy shields. The acid can damage the surface, but it takes time to eat through metal. You built your entire military doctrine around simplicity, Aphelia realized. While the rest of the galaxy moved toward more advanced technology, you focused on making basic weapons as effective as possible. We learned from history, Deho said. On Earth, the most successful weapons have always been the ones that work reliably in any condition. A rifle that can be dropped in mud and still fire, a tank that can take damage and keep moving. We applied that philosophy to space warfare. Chief Engineer Hyaran joined them on the bridge, wiping grease from her hands. She was shorter than Deho, with her hair tied back in a practical bun. Our reactor is based on nuclear fission, not exotic matter or zero-point energy. It is less efficient, but it is stable, and we can repair it with basic tools. Every system on this ship is designed with redundancy. If something breaks, we can fix it or route around it. Aphelia felt a strange emotion rising in her chest. It might have been hope. You are saying that humanity's technological disadvantage is actually an advantage? Against the Vrexians, yes, Deho confirmed. They have spent years adapting to fight coalition technology. They have no experience with our methods. We are unpredictable to them. An alarm sounded on the tactical console. Mirai's expression became serious. Captain, I am picking up a Vrexian signal. It appears to be a data burst heavily encrypted. They are reporting what happened here, Deho guessed. Telling their command about us. That is not good, Aphelia said, her hope fading. The Vrexians will adapt. They always do. Once they understand how you fight, they will develop counters. Let them try, Deho said grimly. But first we need to understand them better. Commander, you have been fighting the Vrexians for 3 years. What can you tell us about their tactics? Aphelia moved to the tactical display and began pointing out formations. The Vrexians operate on a hive mind network. Individual ships have some autonomy, but they coordinate through command nodes, larger vessels that direct the battle. If you destroy the command nodes, the smaller ships become confused and less effective. Mirai leaned forward, studying the data, so they rely on centralized control. That is a weakness. If we target the command ships first, we can break their formation. We have tried that, Aphelia said sadly. The command nodes are heavily protected. They stay in the center of their formations, surrounded by screen ships. By the time you fight through to reach them, your forces are already damaged. Unless you had something they could not predict, Mirai said thoughtfully. She looked at Deho. Sir, I have an idea. It is risky. Most good ideas are, Deho replied. Explain. Mirai pulled up a tactical simulation. The Vrexians rely on sensors to track their enemies. Energy signatures, quantum fluctuations, gravitational distortions, all the things that coalition ships produce. But our ship has a much smaller sensor profile. We run cold until we are ready to fight. You want to use the Indomitable as bait, Aphelia said, understanding. Not bait. Ambush predator. Mirai's eyes gleamed. If we can lure a Vrexian fleet into a trap, shut down all non-essential systems and hide in a debris field or behind a planetary body, they will not see us until we are right on top of them. And when we reveal ourselves, Deho asked, we target the command nodes immediately. All weapons, maximum firepower before they can react. Break their coordination in the first strike. Then we use our maneuverability and armor to survive while we finish off the confused smaller ships. Deho considered this. It was dangerous. If the Vrexians detected them too early, the Indomitable would be surrounded and destroyed. But if it worked, they could achieve victories far beyond what their numbers suggested. We would need bait for this trap, he said slowly. Something to draw the Vrexians in. Aphelia straightened, ignoring the pain from her wounds. Use my carrier. It is damaged, barely mobile. The Vrexians will see an easy target. They will come to finish what they started. Commander, your ship cannot take another battle, Deho protested. We do not need to fight. We only need to survive long enough for you to strike. My crew can do that. We have been doing nothing but surviving for 3 years. Aphelia's insectoid features could not smile, but her voice carried determination. You came to help us when no one else would. Let us help you now. Deho looked at his crew. Mirai was already running calculations, working out the optimal positioning. Taman was checking weapon loads, ensuring they could deliver maximum damage in a single devastating strike. Hyaran was studying the power distribution, figuring out how to run the ship on minimal systems without being detected. They were ready. They were eager. This was what humans did best, finding new ways to fight, adapting to overcome stronger enemies, using intelligence and courage to make up for technological disadvantages. All right, Deho said. We will try Commander Aphelia's plan, but we need to know where the Vrexians will strike next. Where is their fleet heading? Aphelia pulled up a star map. Here, the Veron system. It is a coalition supply hub. If it falls, we lose our ability to support the core worlds. The Vrexians will attack within 3 days. Then we have 3 days to prepare, Deho said. Mireille, work with Commander Aphelia on the tactical details. Taman, I want every weapon system checked and double-checked. Hi, Aaron. Figure out how to run this ship silent enough to fool Vrexian sensors. As the crew moved to their tasks, Deho stood alone for a moment, looking at the star map. 3 days, 1 human ship, and a plan that depended on everything going exactly right. But humans had always been good at defying the odds. It was time to show the Vrexians that this war had changed. Earth had entered the fight, and nothing would ever be the same. The debris field around the shattered moon had once been a coalition mining station. Now it was nothing but wreckage floating in the dark. Pieces of metal, frozen atmosphere, and the occasional body drifted in the silence. It was a graveyard and the perfect place for an ambush. Captain Deho sat in the command chair of the Indomitable, watching his displays with careful attention. The ship was running on minimum power, tucked behind a large chunk of the destroyed moon. All non-essential systems were shut down. The reactor operated at barely 10%. Even the artificial gravity was disabled, leaving the crew floating in 0G at their stations. Status report, Deho said quietly. All systems nominal. Chief Engineer Heron whispered from the engine room. Reactor temperature is stable. We are producing almost no detectable emissions. Unless they fly directly over us, they will not see us. Weapons ready, Sergeant Taman added. Missile tubes loaded with nuclear warheads. Rail guns charged. Plasma lances at standby. When we light up, we will hit them hard. Lieutenant Mirai studied her tactical display, which showed the approach vectors they had calculated. Commander Aphelia's carrier is in position, broadcasting the distress signal as planned. If the Vrexians follow their usual pattern, they should arrive in approximately 4 minutes. Deho activated the communications channel to the carrier, keeping the signal tight and narrow to avoid detection. Commander Aphelia, how is your crew holding up? Aphelia's voice came through, calm despite what they were about to do. We are ready, Captain. My weapons crews are at their stations. We cannot do much damage, but we can buy you the time you need. Our shields are holding at 30%, enough to survive the initial strike. Remember the plan, Deho said. When they come, focus on defense only. Keep their attention. Make them think you are helpless. The moment they commit to the attack, we will move. Understood. And Captain, thank you. Whatever happens today, you gave my people hope again. Deho closed the channel and looked around his bridge. His crew was secured to their stations with magnetic locks floating in the darkness. They had been waiting like this for 2 hours, barely breathing, barely moving. It was uncomfortable and boring, but it was necessary. The Vrexians had sensors that could detect the smallest energy signature. They had to remain invisible until the perfect moment. Movement on sensors, Mireille announced suddenly. Multiple contacts emerging from FTL, counting. 27 vessels. Battle cluster formation. They are heading straight for the carrier. Type of vessels? Deho asked. Standard attack configuration. But I am also reading 3 larger signatures. Command nodes, just as Commander Aphelia predicted. They are positioned in the center of the formation, protected by screen ships. Perfect, Deho breathed. Taman, lock targeting solutions for those 3 command nodes. The moment we power up, I want immediate fire. Already locked, sir, Taman replied. Missiles programmed. Just give the word. Through the view screen, Deho could see the Vrexian fleet approaching the carrier. Their ships moved with disturbing grace, organic forms sliding through space. Green light pulsed through their hulls like blood through veins. They were beautiful in their own terrible way. The carrier broadcasted its distress signal again, playing its part perfectly. The Vrexians accelerated, smelling blood. They had done this hundreds of times before. One damaged ship, helpless and alone, easy prey. They are surrounding the carrier, Mireille reported, breaking into attack formation. The command nodes are holding position at optimal range. This is it, Captain. This is our shot, Deho waited. Timing was everything. The Vrexians had to commit fully to the attack. They had to focus all their attention on the carrier. If he moved too early, they would scatter. Too late, and Aphelia's ship would be destroyed. The Vrexian weapons began charging. Green bioacid built up along their hulls. Sonic disruptors warmed up. They were seconds away from firing. Now, Deho ordered. All power to engines and weapons. Hit them! The Indomitable came to life like a waking dragon. The reactor surged from 10% to full power in seconds. Every light on the ship blazed. The engines roared, pushing them out from behind the moon fragment. The ship accelerated with violent force, throwing crew members against their restraints. The Vrexians never saw it coming. One moment they were focused on their helpless target. The next, a human warship appeared behind them at point-blank range. Taman fired everything. 9 nuclear missiles launched simultaneously, 3 for each command node. The railguns opened up with thunderous salvos, accelerating slugs to tremendous velocities. The plasma lances swept across the battlefield like the fingers of an angry god. The first command node exploded before it could even register the attack. 2 missiles struck it directly, the nuclear detonations vaporizing its organic structure. The second command node tried to bring up its defenses, but it was too late. 3 railgun slugs punched through its central mass, tearing it apart from the inside. The third command node actually managed to fire back, spraying bioacid wildly. But the remaining missiles found it anyway. 3 nuclear explosions bloomed as one, and the ship ceased to exist. All 3 command nodes destroyed in less than 10 seconds. The Vrexian formation fell apart instantly. Without their command nodes, the smaller ships lost coordination. Some fired on each other. Some froze in place, their hive minds confused. Others turned to flee in random directions. "The carrier is opening fire," Mirai said with satisfaction in her voice. "Commander Aphelia is hitting the disorganized ships." Deho saw the carrier's weapons come online, damaged but functional. Energy beams lanced out, catching Vrexian vessels that were too confused to dodge. It was not much firepower, but it did not need to be. The enemy was in chaos. "Maintain offensive pressure," Deho commanded. "Do not let them regroup. Target any ship that tries to form a defensive position." The Indomitable plunged into the heart of the Vrexian fleet. Railguns hammered continuously, the weapons firing so fast they sounded like drums. Missiles streaked through space, each one finding a target. The plasma lances cut through hull after hull, leaving burning wrecks behind. Some Vrexians tried to fight back. Bioacid splashed against the Indomitable's armor, eating through the outer layers. Sonic disruptors created ripples across the hull. Bioplasma sought out crew members, but the sealed compartments kept everyone safe. Hull damage on decks 4 through 8. High Aaron reported. Minor breaches already sealed. "Armor is holding. We can take more." A Vrexian ship, larger than the others, turned to face them directly. It was trying to be a leader, trying to rally the others. Deho saw the threat immediately. "Mirai, that ship is trying to restore command," he said. "Take it out." Understood. Taman, focus all railguns on target bearing 092. The railguns swiveled and fired as one. 6 metal slugs, each weighing several tons, accelerated to impossible speeds. They struck the Vrexian ship in sequence, punching holes through its body. The ship shuddered, tried to regenerate, tried to seal the wounds. But then Taman fired the plasma lances, and the superheated beams cooked the ship from the inside. It burst apart in a spray of organic matter and green fluid. The remaining Vrexians broke completely. Those that could still move turned and ran. Some accelerated toward the edge of the system, desperate to reach FTL distance. Others tried to hide in the debris field, hoping to escape notice. "Pursuit course?" Mirai asked. Deho shook his head. "Let them go. They are broken. Let them carry the news of what happened here back to their leaders." He opened the channel to the carrier. "Commander Aphelia, status report?" "We are intact, Captain. Shields are down to 15%, but we survived. Your timing was perfect." Aphelia's voice carried something Deho had not heard from her before. Joy. "We won. After 3 years of losing, we actually won." Deho allowed himself a small smile. "You played your part perfectly, Commander. Your crew showed real courage. What now?" Aphelia asked. It was a good question. Deho looked at the tactical display, at the wreckage floating around them. 27 Vrexian ships had attacked. 3 survived, and those were fleeing at maximum speed. The Coalition had lost thousands of vessels in this war. The Indomitable had destroyed dozens in 2 battles. "Now we show the Vrexians that this war has changed," Deho said. "Mirai, analyze the data from this battle. I want to understand everything about how they fight. Their weaknesses, their patterns, everything. Taman, reload all weapons and repair the battle damage. Heron, check every system. We are going to need to be ready to fight again soon." "What about the survivors?" Mirai asked, pointing to the fleeing Vrexian ships on the display. "Let them go. Deho repeated. Let them tell their hive regent that humanity has joined this war. Let them spread fear. Fear is a weapon too. The Indomitable moved slowly through the debris field, its crew working to secure the area and assist with repairs to the carrier. Around them, the wreckage of Rexian ships floated like monuments to a new kind of warfare. Somewhere in deep space, those 3 surviving Rexian vessels were transmitting frantically to their superiors. They were describing the impossible. A single unknown ship appearing from nowhere, destroying an entire battle cluster in minutes. Using weapons that should not work, tactics that should not succeed. The Hive Regent would receive those transmissions, and the Hive Regent would be afraid, because fear was PR news traveled fast across the galaxy, even during a war. Within days, every coalition world had heard about the human warship. The story spread through military channels, civilian networks, even refugee camps. A single ship from Earth had appeared and destroyed 2 Vrexian fleets. Impossible victories that gave people something they had not felt in years. Hope. Captain Deho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, reading reports from across coalition space. Resistance forces that had been hiding were coming out of the shadows. Militia groups were forming on occupied worlds. Military units that had been on the verge of surrender were requesting orders to fight again. It is remarkable, Commander Aphelia said from where she stood beside him. Her injuries had healed enough for her to walk, though she still moved carefully. 2 battles and you have changed the entire momentum of the war. We showed them it was possible to win, Deho replied. That is all people needed. Reason to believe. Lieutenant Mirai approached with a datapad. Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Earth. Admiral Jiwan wants to speak with you. Secure channel. Deho took the pad and moved to a private corner of the bridge. The Admiral's face appeared on the screen and she was smiling. That was unusual. Jiwan rarely smiled. Captain Deho, I have been reading your battle reports, she said without preamble. The politicians are in an uproar. Half of them want to recall you immediately. They think you are being too aggressive, taking too many risks. And the other half? Deho asked. The other half want to send you reinforcements. They think we should commit fully to this war. Jiwan's smile widened. Guess which side is winning the argument? Relief flooded through Deho. You are sending ships? 2 more warships, the Gwangaido under Captain Subin, and the Ulji under Captain Kyungho. Both are similar to the Indomitable in design and armament, plus supply vessels and 3 battalions of Marines under Colonel Borum. They will arrive at your position in 6 days. Deho felt his heart race. 3 human warships. That changed everything. Admiral, with that much firepower, You could push the Vrexians back from several key systems, Jiwan interrupted. You could give the coalition time to regroup and rebuild their forces. That is your mission, Captain. Buy time. Show the galaxy that this war can be won. Understood, Admiral. And thank you. Jiwan's expression became serious. Deho, there is something else you need to know. Our intelligence division has been analyzing Vrexian communications. They are planning something big. A massive assault on the coalition core worlds. They are bringing in their most powerful weapon. What kind of weapon? Deho asked, feeling cold. They call it a dreadnought, a bioorganic vessel the size of a moon. It can consume entire planets, converting matter into more ships and weapons. The coalition has encountered them before. They have never defeated one. Deho stared at the screen. A ship the size of a moon? How do you fight something like that? When? He asked simply. 2 weeks, maybe 3. They are gathering forces for a major offensive. The target is Chiton Prime, Commander Aphelia's homeworld. If it falls, the coalition loses its industrial center. The war will be over. Then we have to stop them, Deho said. With 3 ships? Jiwan asked. Against a dreadnought? Captain, I am not ordering you to commit suicide. Your mission is to buy time, not to throw your lives away. With respect, Admiral, if we let them deploy that dreadnought, there will be no time left to buy. We have to try. Jiwan was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. Then make it count. Make them remember that humanity does not surrender. Jiwan out. The transmission ended and Deho stood alone with his thoughts. A dreadnought, the size of a moon, 2 weeks to prepare for the biggest battle of the war. He returned to the main bridge where his crew was working through their routines. Mirai was analyzing sensor data. Taman was running weapons drills. Hiran was in the engine room optimizing power distribution. They were good at their jobs, but would good enough be sufficient? Mirai, I need you to find everything the Coalition knows about Rexian dreadnoughts, Deho ordered. Strengths, weaknesses, previous battles, everything. If we are going to fight one, I want to understand it. Dreadnought? Mirai's eyes widened. Sir, the Vrexians are bringing a dreadnought here? They are bringing everything, Deho confirmed. And we are going to stop them. Get me that information. Over the next several days, the Indomitable coordinated with Coalition forces across the sector. Commander Aphelia used her contacts to organize evacuation plans for civilian populations. Refugee ships began leaving Chiton Prime, carrying millions of people to safety. It would not be everyone. Billions would have to stay behind. But they could save some. Intelligence Officer Nari, a young woman who had recently transferred to the Indomitable, worked tirelessly to intercept Vrexian communications. She was brilliant with signals analysis, able to decode enemy transmissions faster than anyone Deho had ever seen. Captain, I have something, Nari said one evening, her voice urgent. The Vrexians are broadcasting mobilization orders. They are pulling ships from across their territory. This is not just an attack on Chiton Prime. This is their final push. They want to end the war in one massive assault. Numbers? Deho asked. At least 500 warships. Maybe more. And the dreadnought is confirmed. It is called the World Eater. Coalition records show it was used to destroy 3 inhabited planets during the early days of the war. Nothing has ever damaged it. 500 ships, and a planet killer, against 3 human warships and whatever the Coalition could scrape together. The odds were impossible. But humans specialized in the impossible. On the 6th day, the reinforcements arrived. The Guangaito and Ulji dropped out of FTL, followed by the supply ships and troop transports. Deho watched them approach with pride. They were not elegant ships. They were blocky and functional, covered in armor and weapons. But they were strong. They were human. Captain Subin of the Guangaito was older than Deho, a veteran who had served in Earth's wet navies before transferring to the Space Force. She had gray in her hair and scars on her hands from actual combat. Captain Kyung-ho of the Ulji was younger, aggressive and eager to prove himself. He had volunteered for this mission knowing the risks. The 3 captains met via holographic conference along with Colonel Borum, who commanded the Marine forces. Borum was built like a tank, all muscle and determination. He had fought in ground wars on Earth and had adapted those skills to space combat. So we are facing 500 ships and a moon-sized monster, Subin said dryly. And we have 3 warships and some very brave Marines. Anyone have a plan that does not involve dying gloriously? Actually, yes, Miri said. She had been invited to the conference to present her analysis. I have been studying the dreadnought. It is bioorganic like all Vrexian ships, but much larger. It consumes matter to fuel its growth and weapons production. The Coalition always tried to fight it directly, throwing ships at it until it ate them all. That sounds like a bad plan, Kyung-ho observed. It was, but the dreadnought has weaknesses. It is too large to maneuver quickly. It relies on smaller ships for protection, and most importantly, it has a biological core, a central organ that regulates all its functions. If we could damage that core, the entire structure would collapse. How do we reach the core? Deho asked. We would need to penetrate deep inside the dreadnought, Mirai explained. Past its defenses, through its internal structures. It would be extremely dangerous. So we distract it, Subin said thoughtfully. Draw off its escort ships. Then someone makes a run at its core. Someone with a lot of nuclear weapons, Borum added. Enough to crack that biological core open. The Indomitable still has a full missile loadout, Taman reported. If we could get close enough, we could deliver every warhead directly into the target. But getting close means surviving the approach, Hyeron pointed out. The dreadnought will be protected by hundreds of ships. They will throw everything at us. Deho looked at his fellow captains. Subin met his eyes with calm acceptance. Kyung-ho nodded eagerly. Borum cracked his knuckles. Then we give them multiple targets, Deho said. The Guangaito and Ulji will engage the escort fleet. Draw as many ships away as possible. The Indomitable will make the run on the dreadnought itself. Colonel Borum, your Marines will provide boarding support if needed. If needed, Borum asked. If we can damage the dreadnought but not destroy it, we might need to send people inside to finish the job. That is where you come in. Borum grinned. It was not a pleasant expression. My people are trained for hostile environment operations. If you need someone to walk into hell and blow something up, Marines are your answer. Then we have a plan, Subin said. It is a terrible plan. The odds are awful. We will probably all die. Probably, Daeho agreed. Good, Kyung-ho said. I would hate for this to be easy. The conference ended and each captain returned to their ship to prepare. They had less than 2 weeks before the Vrexians arrived. 2 weeks to coordinate with coalition forces, to evacuate civilians, to prepare for the battle that would decide everything. In the darkness of space, the human fleet waited. 3 warships, a few thousand soldiers, against an enemy that had conquered half the galaxy. But they were human. Akiton Prime hung in space like a jewel, its surface covered with sprawling cities and industrial complexes. Billions of insectoid people lived there, going about their lives even as the Vrexian armada approached. Many had refused to evacuate. This was their home. They would defend it or die trying. Captain Daeho stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the defensive preparations. The human fleet had positioned itself in orbit around the planet, forming the core of the coalition defensive line. What remained of the coalition forces had joined them. 53 warships of various types, damaged and undermanned, but still capable of fighting. Against 500 Vrexian vessels, the odds were terrible. And then there was the Dreadnought, the World Eater. It had appeared at the edge of the system 2 hours ago, and Daeho had watched it through the long-range sensors with something close to awe. It was enormous, bigger than anything he had ever seen. Its surface was covered with organic structures that pulsed and moved. Smaller ships swarmed around it like flies around a corpse. The thing was alive, truly alive, and it was coming to devour this world. Final status report, Daeho ordered. All weapon systems ready, Sergeant Taman reported. Every missile tube loaded. Railguns charged, plasma lances at full power. We are carrying our maximum ordnance load. Engineering reports all systems functioning at peak efficiency, Chief Engineer Hiren added. Reactor stable. Armor reinforced in critical areas. We are as ready as we will ever be. Coalition forces are in position, Lieutenant Mirai said. Captain Subin and Kyung-ho report their ships are ready. Colonel Borum's Marines are standing by in their assault shuttles. Everyone is waiting for the signal. Daeho activated the fleet-wide communications. All ships, this is Captain Daeho. In a few minutes, the Vrexian fleet will enter engagement range. What happens next will determine the fate of billions of people. We are outnumbered. We are outgunned. The enemy has weapons we cannot match, but we have something they do not. We have courage. We have hope. And we have each other. Today, we show the Vrexians that some things cannot be conquered. Today, we make them pay for every meter of space. Today, we defend Chiton Prime. All ships stand ready. The channel filled with acknowledgments, human voices, alien voices, all united in one purpose. To hold the line, the Vrexian armada accelerated. The Dreadnought moved slowly, its massive bulk difficult to maneuver, but the smaller ships raced ahead. Hundreds of them, spreading out into attack formations. They had learned from previous battles. They kept their command nodes protected, surrounded by layers of screen ships. They are adapting, Mirai observed. They are not making the same mistakes. Then we will have to make new mistakes for them, Daeho replied. Execute defense pattern Alpha. All coalition ships fall back to secondary positions. We want to draw them in close to the planet. The coalition fleet moved, creating gaps in the defensive line. To the Vrexians, it looked like fear, like the defenders were retreating. The enemy ships accelerated, eager to exploit the weakness. Minefield activation in 5 seconds, Mirai counted down. 4, 3, 2, 1 mark, space erupted with fire. The humans had spent the past 2 weeks deploying thousands of mines throughout the orbital space around Chiton Prime. Simple devices, nothing more than chemical explosives with basic sensors. But there were so many of them. The leading Vrexian ships ran straight into the trap and dozens exploded simultaneously. First wave disrupted, Mirai reported. 23 enemy vessels destroyed. Others are falling back to regroup. Launch the drones, Daeho ordered. Hundreds of small unmanned craft launched from the human ships. They were not sophisticated. Each one was just a thruster, a sensor package, and a recording device that broadcast false energy signatures. To Vrexian sensors, they looked like additional warships. The enemy fleet split its attention, trying to target the real threats among the decoys. They are confused, Mirai said with satisfaction. Firing solutions are scattered. They are not coordinating effectively. Captain Subin and Kyung-ho, begin your attack runs, Daeho commanded. Hit them from the flanks. Keep them off balance. The Gwanggaeto and Olgi broke from the defensive formation and accelerated at maximum speed. They split in opposite directions, coming at the Vrexian fleet from both sides. Their weapons opened up simultaneously, railguns and missiles tearing into the enemy formations. The Vrexians tried to respond, but they were still recovering from the minefield and the drone confusion. Subin and Kyungho exploited every moment of hesitation, their ships dancing through the battle space with practiced precision. They were not trying to destroy the entire fleet. They were trying to draw attention away from the Indomitable. It was working. The bulk of the Vrexian forces turned to engage the two human warships. Command nodes were directing attacks, coordinating fire patterns. The enemy was focusing on the visible threats, which meant they were not watching the Indomitable. Engineering, I need everything you can give me, Daiho said. Maximum power to engines and shields. You're going to make the run now? Higher asked. Sir, the dreadnought is still 2 light minutes away. It will take us right through the heart of their fleet. That is the point. They are distracted. This is our best chance. Helmsman, plot a direct course to the World Eater. Ignore everything else. We are going straight through. The Indomitable's engines flared to full power and the ship surged forward like a bullet. Daiho felt the acceleration press him into his chair. Around them, the battle raged. Vrexian ships tried to intercept, but the Indomitable was too fast, too focused. Railguns fired continuously, clearing a path. Any enemy ship that got too close was destroyed or shoved aside. Multiple lock-ons detected, Mirai warned. They are targeting us with everything. Point defense systems, maximum output, Daiho ordered. Do not let anything touch this ship. The Indomitable's defensive weapons came to life. Small rapid-fire guns tracked incoming missiles and bioplasma bolts, shooting them down before they could reach the hull. Some got through. Bioacid splashed against the armor, eating into the metal. Sonic disruptors made the entire ship shudder, but the armor held. The ship kept moving. Behind them, Subin and Kyungho pressed their attacks, keeping the Vrexian fleet occupied. Coalition ships added their firepower, targeting any enemy vessel that tried to pursue the Indomitable. The defense was holding, but barely. Ships were dying on both sides. The space around Chiton Prime became a graveyard. 1 light minute to the dreadnought, Mirai reported. It is launching attack organisms. Biological missiles, thousands of them. Daiho saw them on the view screen. Living weapons grown by the World Eater and launched like projectiles. They moved with disturbing intelligence, seeking targets with organic sensors. Taemin, saturate the approach vector with everything we have, Daiho commanded. Clear us a path. The Indomitable fired every weapon simultaneously. Nuclear missiles detonated in controlled patterns, creating walls of radiation that killed the biological missiles. Railguns fired full auto, filling space with metal slugs. The plasma lances swept back and forth, vaporizing anything they touched. The Indomitable punched through the biological screen and emerged on the other side. The World Eater loomed before them, filling the view screen. It was impossibly large. Mountains moved on its surface. Organic structures pulsed with green light. Openings like mouths gaped wide, ready to consume matter and convert it into weapons. 30 seconds to effective range, Mirai said. Her voice was steady, but Daiho could hear the fear underneath. They were about to attack something that had destroyed entire planets. Taemin, target the central structure, Daiho ordered. I see it on the scans. That dense mass near the core, that is what we need to hit. Targeting, Taemin confirmed. All missiles locked. This is going to hurt, on my mark, Daiho said. He watched the tactical display, timing it perfectly. They needed to be close enough for the missiles to penetrate deep before detonating. Too far, and the World Eater's outer structures would absorb the damage. Now, Daiho shouted. The Indomitable launched every nuclear missile it carried. Dozens of them, the ship's entire arsenal, fired in a single overwhelming salvo. They streaked toward the World Eater, their guidance systems locked on the biological core. The dreadnought tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, moving too fast. The missiles penetrated the outer membranes and disappeared into the World Eater's body. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the nuclear warheads detonated all at once, deep inside the core. The World Eater convulsed. The entire structure shuddered as radiation and heat tore through its internal organs. Green fluid sprayed from massive wounds. The organic structures on its surface began dying, withering like plants in fire. The thing that had consumed worlds was dying, but it was not dead yet. And it was angry. It is launching everything, Mirai screamed. All attack organisms, all bioweapons, everything it has left. The space around the Indomitable filled with weapons. Living missiles, acid clouds, bioplasma storms. The World Eater was using the last of its energy to destroy the thing that had hurt it. Evasive maneuvers, Deho ordered. Hire in everything to shields! The Indomitable twisted and turned, trying to dodge, but there was too much incoming fire. The shields flared and died. Acid ate the Coalition starbase orbited a small moon in neutral space, far from the front lines. It was a repair facility, built to handle damaged warships and provide rest for exhausted crews. The Indomitable limped into dock 3 days after the battle at Chiton Prime, its hull scarred and blackened but still intact. Still flying, still ready to fight if needed. Captain Deho walked through the corridors of his ship, inspecting the damage personally. Entire sections were exposed to vacuum, sealed off by emergency bulkheads. The armor plating was eaten away in places, showing the structural framework underneath. Scorch marks covered the walls where fires had raged during the battle. It would take weeks to repair everything, but they had won. That was what mattered. Chief Engineer Hiren met him near the engine room, her face smudged with grease and exhaustion. She had not slept in days, working constantly to keep the ship functional. Reactor is stable, she reported. I had to shut down 2 of the cooling systems and reroute power through secondary conduits, but we are producing enough energy for basic operations. The Coalition engineers say they can have us back to full capacity in 3 weeks. 3 weeks, Deho repeated. And how long before we can fight again? Hiren looked at him with tired eyes. Captain, we just barely survived the last battle. The crew needs rest. The ship needs proper repairs. We cannot keep pushing this hard. I know, Deho said softly, but the war is not going to wait for us to be ready. The Vrexians are still out there. But they are broken, Hiren argued. We destroyed their dreadnought. We killed hundreds of their ships. They have to be as exhausted as we are. Deho wanted to believe that. He wanted to think that one great victory would end everything. But he had studied military history. He knew that wars rarely ended with a single battle, no matter how decisive. Get some rest, Hiren, he said gently. You have earned it. I will handle things from here. She nodded and walked away, her shoulders slumped with fatigue. Deho continued his inspection, finding his crew in similar states throughout the ship. Sergeant Taman was asleep at his weapons station, too tired to make it to his quarters. Lieutenant Murray was reviewing sensor logs with eyes that could barely stay open. Intelligence Officer Nari had collapsed over her console, her analysis reports still running on the displays. They were heroes. All of them. They had saved billions of lives and changed the course of a galactic war. But they were also human. They had limits. They needed time to recover. A message came through on his personal communicator. Admiral Jiwan wanted to speak with him. Deho made his way to the communications center and established a secure connection. Jiwan appeared on the screen, and for the first time since Deho had known her, she looked genuinely happy. Captain, I have been reading the battle reports from Chiton Prime. You destroyed the World Eater. Do you understand what that means? It means we survived, Deho said. It means you won, Jiwan corrected. The Coalition is calling it the greatest military victory in the war. Species that were on the verge of surrendering are rallying their forces. The Vrexians have lost their momentum. You did that, Deho, you and your crew. We lost 8 Coalition ships, Deho said quietly. Thousands of people died. The Indomitable is barely functional. It does not feel like a victory. That is because you are a good officer, Jiwan said. You understand the cost. But you need to see the bigger picture. Before you arrived, the Coalition was losing. Every battle, every engagement, they fell further behind. Now they are winning. Not everywhere, not every time, but enough. The Vrexians are retreating from sectors they held for years. Their supply lines are collapsing. Their morale is breaking. Deho felt something shift inside him. Hope maybe, or just the realization that their sacrifices had meant something. What are my orders, Admiral? He asked. Rest, repair your ship, let your crew recover. Earth is sending more vessels. Within 6 months, we will have a full battle fleet in Coalition space. But until then, you are our vanguard, the symbol of human involvement in this war. Symbol, Deho repeated. He did not much like being a symbol. Live with it, Jiwan said with a slight smile. You are a hero now, Captain. The galaxy is watching you. Make them proud. The transmission ended and Deho sat alone with his thoughts. A hero, he had never wanted that. He had only wanted to help people who were dying, to answer a call for help because it was the right thing to do. Over the following weeks, the repairs progressed steadily. Coalition engineers worked alongside the human crew, learning from each other. The aliens were fascinated by human technology, by its simplicity and effectiveness. The humans were equally interested in coalition science, particularly their medical techniques and quantum communications. Commander Aphelia visited often, bringing news from across coalition space. The Vrexian advance had stalled completely. Several occupied worlds had been liberated. Refugee populations were returning to their homes. The production facilities on Chiton Prime were working overtime, building new ships and weapons based on human designs. "You have given us more than military victories," Aphelia told Deho during one visit. "You have given us a new way of thinking. For so long we believed that technological advancement was the only path to victory, but you showed us that sometimes the old ways, the simple ways, are more effective." "We just used what we knew," Deho replied. "Humans have always been good at making weapons. It is one of our least admirable talents." "Perhaps," Aphelia said, "but you also know when to use those weapons. You could have stayed home safe on Earth and let the galaxy burn. Instead, you came when we called. That is the real difference. Not your technology, your courage." Captain Subin and Captain Kyung-ho recovered from their own battles. Both ships had taken damage, though not as severe as the Indomitable. They spent time comparing notes, discussing tactics, planning for future engagements. Colonel Borum's Marines, who had not been needed for boarding actions at Chiton Prime, were training with coalition ground forces, sharing techniques and learning from each other. Earth was not just sending warships. They were sending teachers, engineers, doctors, and diplomats. Humanity was integrating into the galactic community, bringing their own unique perspectives and methods. Some coalition species were suspicious of these aggressive newcomers. Others welcomed them as saviors. But everyone agreed on one thing: the humans had changed everything. One evening, Deho gathered his senior crew in the repaired briefing room. Hyerin, Mireille, Taman, and Nari sat around the table, looking healthier after weeks of rest. They were ready to return to duty. "I have been thinking about what comes next," Deho began. "The Vrexians are weakened, but they are not defeated. They still control dozens of star systems. They still have thousands of ships. This war will continue for years, maybe decades. Are we going home?" Hyerin asked. There was no judgment in her voice, just curiosity. "Earth is sending replacements," Deho said. "New crews, fresh ships. We could transfer command and return to Earth. No one would blame us. We have done more than anyone had the right to ask." "But," Mirai prompted. "But I am not ready to leave," Deho admitted. "We started something here. We showed the galaxy what humanity can do. I want to finish it." "I am staying," Taman said immediately. "We have the Vrexians on the run. I want to keep them running. The data we are collecting is invaluable," Nari added. "I am learning things about xenobiology and communications that could reshape our understanding of alien species. I want to continue that research." "Someone has to make sure this ship stays in one piece," Hyerin said with a slight smile. "And I am not trusting my repairs to some replacement crew." Mireille was quiet for a moment, then nodded. "When we received that first distress call, I thought we would die out here. I thought this was a suicide mission. But we proved that one ship, one crew could make a difference. I want to keep making that difference." Deho felt pride swell in his chest. This was his crew. These were his people. They had been through hell together, and they were choosing to go back in. "Then we stay," he said. "The Indomitable returns to active duty. We will coordinate with the other human ships, support coalition operations, and continue pushing the Vrexians back. We will fight until this war is won or until we cannot fight anymore." "Until we cannot fight anymore," Taman repeated. "That is the human way." The repairs were completed. The Indomitable detached from the starbase and moved back into open space. The ship looked almost new, its armor replaced, its weapons reloaded, its systems upgraded with the best coalition and human technology. But it carried its scars inside. The crew remembered every battle, every near-death experience, every moment when they thought they would not survive, and they were ready for more. Captain Deho stood on his bridge, looking at the star map that showed the battle lines across the galaxy. The Vrexians held less territory now. The coalition was advancing. Earth's reinforcements were arriving. The tide had turned, but the war was not over. There would be more battles, more dangers, more moments when victory seemed impossible. That was fine. Humans specialized in the impossible. Helmsman, set course for the Corvin sector, Deho ordered. Coalition forces have requested support for an offensive operation. Let us show them what the Indomitable can do. The ship turned toward the stars, its engines burning bright.